What does it take to make workshops work? And how can we facilitate collaboration that sticks and leads to results? My name is Miriam Happiness, and with the Workshops Work podcast, I'm on the mission to find the magic ingredients that make workshops work. Today with me on the show is Tracy Cosgrove, and we talk about facilitating trainings as an avatar in the virtual world. So stay tuned. And by the way, if you don't have pen and paper at hand to take your own notes, why don't you visit workshops.work to download my free one-page summary that I wrote only for you. Now enjoy the show. Hello, Tracy, and welcome to the show.
Lovely to meet you.
Yes, this time on Zoom. Last time I was a guest in your virtual office.
That's right.
Disguised as an avatar.
Yeah, did you? Well, at least I think you was a male at first, and then
I was a male at first because I didn't know how to change, and I was running late a little bit. But then before the selfie, I could get changed.
That's right.
Put myself into a female body.
Yeah.
Some nice pants.
Good.
Yeah, and I'm really excited today to explore more what it means to work as an avatar in this virtual environment, as you have been doing this for a long time already, so you're the expert. And before we dive into that, maybe you can share with us your story. When did you start calling yourself a facilitator?
Okay, well, I was actually thinking about this, and I never actually started calling it myself. It was something that when I was in Myanmar, most of my work has always been word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Well, always word of mouth. And somebody just called me and said, "Oh, we need a facilitator for this. Can you fit it in your diary?" And of course I just said yes, and actually hadn't even thought what the word facilitator was. I was just like, well, if they're asking me to do it, of course they must know I can. Mm-hmm.
I love that attitude.
So it was quite, I never really called it myself yet.
Did you afterwards start calling yourself a facilitator? What do you think was it that he meant when he said you shall facilitate?
Yeah, well, I just thought he wanted me there to network.
Slightly different.
Yeah. So, but I just thought, okay, well, they know what they want and they've asked me to do it, so they must know I can do it. Yeah, so it was, and of course then I said yes, then went for a meeting and said, okay, well, you need to tell me a little bit more about what it is we're going to do. And I thought, oh yeah, that's easy, I can do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And was this on site in the physical space or in the virtual space already?
That was in the physical, yeah.
And what made you move then to the virtual world?
Well, it was mainly, I was looking for some way of being able to stop traveling as much as I was. Because working in Myanmar, and over the last 2 years, we'd been transitioning to the Netherlands. And my partner, he moved back, and I was supposed to move back, but I could never just move back. I loved what I was doing, and I love meeting people, and I love my job. So I started thinking, okay, what can I do to help me transition between the two? And then last year I was in Mumbai, and it was like, the year before, I lose track. And I was in Mumbai, and I met this man in a hotel lobby who said, "Oh, you're English. Would you mind checking this VR headset system out for me and tell me what you think of it?" And I was literally in a bar in a hotel. And I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." And I put the headset on, and I'd never even played with a Game Boy or Nintendo or anything, from my children growing up. I'd never even thought about picking up any controllers. And there I am in the Taj Hotel wearing a VR headset. And I thought, oh, I like this. So anyway, I carried on and everything else. And then in the end, I was like, okay, so I went back to Yangon and I thought, I'm going to look more into VR and to see how I can start. And I started to see then how I could transition my training into virtual reality and also into a virtual world. Mm-hmm. I had no friends who had ever even wore VR headsets. I had no friends who even understood what I was trying to describe when I was so excited. And the only response was, if you're happy, we're happy. So that started I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then it all started. And to be honest, in fact, yesterday I was doing a workshop on hashtag I am remarkable. And yesterday, one of my hashtag I am remarkable was because I learned how to code and how to work in VR at the age of 55. Wow. And the other people who were on the call, like on the Zoom call, were like, you did what? And the whole session stopped because everybody then wanted to know what I was talking about and what was my virtual world and everything. It was so funny. So it just shows you what one hashtag, when you're saying something out loud, I mean, the whole session just stopped. Wonderful. And people wanted to know more.
This is what happens when you yes and everything that comes to you, right? It sounds as if you're doing this. And I will first ask you for your hashtag. Now I have to. So if you were a hashtag, what would it be?
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Love it.
Yeah. Yes. And in fact, I wrote this on Facebook last night at like 12 o'clock. And I wrote on Facebook, I'm going to do a podcast. I wonder if they asked me for a hashtag, what would you write? Well, I can't tell you all the hashtags that was written on my Facebook, but 95% of them were so true. And I've actually now kept them and I will keep them.
It's a nice exercise, yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. And I'd never thought of it before.
Yeah, and it gives you such a good idea of how you're actually perceived by your followers, clients, friends, network.
This is it. And they often involved champagne.
Mm. Yeah, I get that. Just came back from a holiday in the Champagne.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yes. Too dangerous to stay there for a longer time, though.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, well, I wish I was with you.
And I'm curious, you said that in the beginning, so before you started working in the VR world, that you loved your job and loved meeting people. So how was it for you to transition to suddenly not meeting people with their facial expressions and their video, or even in the physical space, and suddenly communicating with avatars?
Yeah, well, this actually was, and this is why now I can really honestly say, when people say, oh, if you don't have people's facial expression, you can't work. I now know this is totally wrong. You can.
What is it? What is it?
You know, as an avatar, they are more open. Mm-hmm. They are able to speak as if they're speaking with a friend. Mm-hmm. The amount of conversations that have come through as an avatar are conversations that it might take people 5 years before they would tell you something. It's quite amazing. And in fact, I've been working with a company for diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. And they had spent 2 years with consultants trying to get the team to be open and frank. I was with them for 2 weeks as an avatar, and I got more information than they had in 2 years of a consultant.
Wow.
Because people, as an avatar, were able to just come. You know, we even lost the CEO on a boat. He went on a boat. On the boat, as an avatar, he went off on the boat with the MD, And they went off into the sunset on the speedboat and came back an hour and a half later.
What did they do on this speedboat?
They just enjoyed themselves. Yeah. And so when people say, oh, you can't get the feeling of someone without facial expressions, yes, you can.
Yeah. And it's interesting because last week I released an episode with a voice coach, and he explained to me that you can actually read a voice as you read a body language.
Yes, absolutely.
So now it makes sense to me what you're saying, because I can perfectly relate it to that.
Oh, you can. Just listening to the voice, and all of a sudden, when somebody has told you something which is quite hard for them to say, and then all of a sudden they say, can we go and now have a samba dance, or can we do a tango? And all of a sudden you've finished and they start dancing and jigging around. And then okay, we've got something special here. That now the freedom of being able to speak has now also allowed them to just feel the flow.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
What I find remarkable in this is that it actually means that we maybe fear judgment just by our appearance so much that it affects the way how we communicate and show up in a virtual meeting or in any meeting. Yeah,
well, I'm quite lucky because I've been using Zoom for quite a few years in my progression into my virtual world. And now I still use Zoom within the virtual world when it's necessary. So
when is it necessary?
Well, for instance, if we are doing a team building exercise and everybody's off in the rooms, and I will just pop into a room, and the next minute I'm on the screen and just giving them, an activity to do, and another activity to do.
So you mean on the screen within the virtual world?
Yes.
So avatars look at your video where you show up as a person, as Tracy.
Yeah, that's right. So I will be still sat there as an avatar, and then all of a sudden I want them to see me, and I'll just press, webcam, and I'm there. And everybody all of a sudden, is saying, oh my gosh, where did you come from?
Wow.
And one of the things which I really love about being an avatar is that recently you've seen with all of these online meetings, people are having a lot of Zoom fatigue. And their backgrounds, they're very careful of the backgrounds or not so careful. Recently, I had a meeting with a CEO and his clothes were hanging out of the bedroom door. And I'm thinking, okay, great.
It's just a human being.
Bedroom, looks really good. I would have closed the door though. But the thing is, we are going into spaces that we were invited to. Yeah. And this is one of the main things for me. We are going into a lot of, especially where I'm working, we have a lot of different levels of people, so all in different positions. If you had to go onto a Zoom call or a WebEx or whichever online platform, if you had to go into there and you're seeing where they're living,
you judge.
And many people don't want you to know where they're living because their perception that they're showing to the world is not where they're living.
Yeah.
And we weren't invited, if we were invited to the office, within a second you don't say, oh, come and meet my bedroom, come and meet my living room. We don't go into their house.
Yeah.
As an avatar, well, I choose the house, I choose the room, I can choose my hair. Most of my meetings as an avatar, I'm wearing flip-flops.
Yes, I posted a screenshot of that. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm always wearing flip-flops because I'm either in flip-flops or I'm barefoot. And if I could be barefoot as an avatar, I would. but they've not figured that people actually would like to
Maybe
be a
you can
barefoot
ask the developers.
yet. In fact, I think I'm just going to make a note of that, because I actually am. You say it out loud and then it becomes real.
Yes.
I want to be a barefoot. Yeah. Because as I'm sat here now, I'm barefoot. So I think that's the thing with, especially as an avatar, that we can speak freely.
Mm-hmm.
So we can speak freely. We are not inviting people into our homes when, we've seen some of the good cases and the bad cases, the bookshelf pictures and everything else. And also now all these virtual, the virtual backgrounds. We know it's virtual, don't
pretend.
Do it. Yeah.
On the other hand, what I do like about the Zoom and having a glimpse into someone's world, it invites us to see the person how they live and who they are as a person. So maybe their pets running around and children running around, and gives a little bit of warmth, but it obviously depends on the circumstances.
I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Because definitely, a lot of the people who I'm working with and who I'm coaching or who is in the training, they might not want other people to know how they're living.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a difference in terms of how you facilitate, whether you're being in the persona of an avatar versus a Zoom training with video?
Well, I'm very much a movement person. Mm-hmm. So I often walk about when I'm giving trainings, and when I'm working on sessions, I'm often standing up and walking around. Mm-hmm. And also if I'm doing a speech, I'm standing up and walking around. As an avatar, if I'm in the VR headset, mm-hmm. I can walk around through the different rooms. If I'm sat at my computer, I need somebody else to walk me around the different rooms, because they're having to use the keys on the keyboard or moving the mouse. Mm. So, and if I'm static and if I'm sat down, I often, within the virtual world, we also have, you can click and it will take you to another room. Mm-hmm. I walk, I don't take the shortcut. Yeah. I like to walk, and I like to pass the other rooms to see if anybody's there. A bit like you would normally.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of the facilitation skills, how you communicate with the people, the kind of exercises you do you see a difference?
Everything that you can do, in any world you can do. Mm. And even, for instance, in Myanmar, if we're doing a team building exercise, I have things delivered to their house. Mm. So I have things delivered to their house already, and they're so excited because they're not allowed to open it until we're on the session.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So they open it up, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we've got connects, bits of connects, what we're going to do with this. And you might have a little man or something, and then I'll give them an activity. But also, even by building, another activity which I'm often doing is just using paper, and you can do anything. Mm. You just have to be creative. And luckily enough, I'm quite creative. In my previous life, I was a hotel interior designer. Uh-huh. So I know creativity, and it just comes, through. But you know what works and you know what won't work.
Yeah, so not only creativity, but also hospitality. That's what I hear from this, delivering a little present or box to the participants.
Yes.
So when you say what doesn't work, what is there that doesn't work in the VR world?
In the VR world, it doesn't work if people are not present. Mm. You have to be present, and you have to be open. Mm-hmm. And you all have to know the reason why you're there.
Yeah. I think this is true for every kind of meeting or session.
That's it. And it's That's the main thing.
Does everyone, so when I visited you in your office, I didn't have a VR glasses.
Yeah.
So do most of your clients have or have not VR glasses?
They don't have.
Okay. So
No.
It doesn't really make a huge difference.
No. I use two different things. So for instance, for the one where you came in as an avatar, I use this for training and also for meetings and for fun, for fun activities.
Yeah.
When you need the VR glasses, this is for immersive training. And the immersive training is very different to the avatar. We're an avatar in the virtual world.
Yeah. And maybe we can put in the show notes a recommendation of VR glasses for beginners.
Oh, yeah.
We can do that. I think this would be interesting for the audience. So you said when it's important for the participants to be really present and to be open. So you as an avatar facilitator, how do you create this space where they must and can be present and open?
Well, this is done through chat. And also, firstly, we often have a one-to-one beforehand. So before people are coming into a session, often I've already they receive a form and information on the form they fill in, because most of the time I'm doing 8-hour sessions. So it's an 8-hour workshop. Yeah, so it's an 8-hour workshop. I need to make sure that we have everybody on the same page, and by them filling in the little questions and the comments, I can then pick out of there and see what they feel the issue might be. Many times this is the first time that they've ever been in a virtual world. 99% of the time. 99% of the time, they've never even heard of an avatar. They think it's the blue people from, one of these cartoons or something. They really have got no idea. But when they come in, oh my gosh, you hear everybody, first of all, puts their mute on. And then you just hear the mute coming off as people are squealing with laughter. And they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh gosh, try this. And it's really infectious.
Yeah.
And once they start, they don't stop. They literally will just keep saying, if you say, okay, we can either have a Zoom call or we can come into the virtual world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot wait to host an event myself in the virtual world. So that's on my my to-do list.
You should. You can use my offices.
And maybe that's a good transition. How did you find your office? And how do you make the decision which office to pick? Because now there are more and more companies, providers of these virtual office spaces and meeting spaces.
Yeah. Okay, with me, I was doing lots and lots of research. I think I tried, if I didn't try everything, I've missed one. Wow. I signed up for beta testing for every single thing that has come online. I've been a beta tester. I've tested everything. I've had headsets delivered to me. I've had apps put in as testing. The particular one that I use is Verbella. And what I loved about that was the ease of it. It was so easy. And people don't need a massive big bandwidth. So they don't need a big bandwidth. They were able to go onto the computer, download it, and they're straight in. And also the fact that they have the concierge there. So as you arrive, if you have no idea, and as soon as you arrive, it says new user. So they know that you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And it's really nice that people feel comfortable, and it's just so simple.
Yeah. What I found surprising when I arrived as a new user is that I did not expect to arrive to a kind of office building where there are many offices and you are just one business of many and there's a general concierge.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's fantastic because they really help you a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, they really help people get you to the right place. Yeah. And I was doing a speech, I think it was March. I was invited to do a speech in Virbella, and there was over 11,000 visitors who came. Wow. And lots of people contacted me afterwards on LinkedIn, and people were saying, "Oh, your speech was so wonderful because you showed who you really were." Because I just kept popping in and out. You know, I kept popping in and out from my saying, you know, just checking you're all still there. And, you know, and I'm talking to avatars, but just checking that everybody's still there. But this one I love, and I love that I can brand my offices. Mm-hmm. We've got a conference room. We've got breakout rooms. We have a good office.
Hi, this is Andrew. I'm a facilitator and head of customer success at Session Lab, the dynamic workshop planner tool. More than 30,000 facilitators, trainers, and coaches use our workshop planner tool and save time and effort in the design process. So, how do they do it? Our drag-and-drop agenda builder makes it easy to transform your ideas into high-quality workshops, and the timing of your agenda automatically updates when you make changes. You can collaborate in real time with your colleagues and easily share professional-looking printouts with your clients. And if you need inspiration, you can check out our library of more than 500 activities and exercises and simply drag the ones you need right into your workshop agenda. So check out Session Lab to save time and effort in your workshop design process. And now get your first 2 months of Session Lab Pro absolutely free at sessionlab.com/workshopswork.
So what would you recommend someone who's exploring options to work as an avatar?
Well, they can contact me and they can come and visit my office.
Yes.
And I'll show them around. I would research a lot. One hat doesn't fit all, but I would say at the moment the Virbella hat fits a lot of people because you don't have to go in through VR.
Yeah.
But I do believe with it, if we look at, I think of VR and the virtual spaces as when we were first hearing about the internet. You know, we first heard about the internet and people were like, oh, that's not going to work, or, oh, I'm not sure about this. They know where we are. I think in another few years, VR has changed so much in the last 2 years. It's phenomenal how quick the pace of things are going. It's quite remarkable. You can now even go into places and like teleport in. So you've got teleportation. Yeah. You can actually be there in your own body and handing something to somebody else. I did it with my daughter yesterday. I was in VR. She was on her computer. And we were working on a mind map and shuffling things around. And I could see her full body.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And I think that the pandemic is just an accelerator to this.
By 10
technological
years.
Development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really good move. I think people, in fact, yesterday, I just commented on something on LinkedIn. And this man started giving me abuse, telling me I didn't know anything about the working in the cloud.
Right.
And I just said, thank you for your comments. I hope you can teach me something. But it was quite funny because I'm thinking he'd said that I keep reading this everywhere. People keep saying that for 1 hour of virtual training, it takes you 10 hours to create the virtual training. I don't believe that. So I said, I keep seeing this 10 hours to 1 hour. I said, but that's clearly from people who don't know what they're doing. Because how can it take 10 hours for 1 hour?
Yeah.
So he told me that I didn't understand the cloud. And I thought, don't understand the cloud. I'm working in VR. I'm working in, and if you're, yeah. So he more or less,
what does it have to do with the cloud? Because a training is about delivering content and making sure that people understand and have this growth path.
So I thought that was quite, and he was a professor.
Oh.
So the reason I'm saying that is because it's good to share knowledge, you know. And when I think about 2 years ago, when I first said to my children, I'm going to start working in VR, they just laughed their head off, you know. And now everybody just knows me as, you know, okay, oh, you need to speak to Tracy, you know, you need to speak to Tracy. But first of all, they were like, Mum, do you even know what VR is? I'm like, yeah. And now they, you know, I've always got a headset with me, and even on the plane coming back from Yangon, I filmed on the plane, put it straight into the headset, and was showing everybody at the bar on the plane, you know, what it was all about. And I got 3 clients from standing at the bar.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. So it's fun. I love it. I absolutely. And I love seeing the take up from people. You know, how first of all they're thinking, oh no, it's too expensive. People will be sick. People will never use it. And then all of a sudden they're like a full 360. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is really good. And this will actually save us money.
Yeah. So what is the investment you need to set up a virtual VR office?
Well, for the office itself, that's $200 a month for the office, which if you think as a facilitator, if you actually went and for a hotel room, it could cost you that for one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And often it's more than 200
for one day if it's cheap. Maybe in Myanmar it costs 200 for a day.
Yeah,
in Amsterdam it can easily cost 200 per hour.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so it will cost you 1,000. So now you're having this for 200, and you can custom make it. You can do everything that you like, everything you want to it. So yeah, and then for the virtual reality, you just need to have the headset. Well, a few headsets. So you need a few headsets. You need a camera. So if you're filming it yourself, and then you also need the software packages for you to be able to create your modules into virtual reality. And this is where people really should get in touch if they were wanting to do that, because I've made some costly mistakes.
Can you share one?
I won't name them, but I'll share. So I think last year I signed up with a company that it was €1,500, a Dutch company, €1,500 to join their platform. And they were a startup, and I joined their platform. But to be honest, if I could have cancelled after a month, I would have done, but you had to pay for a year in advance, like you had to pay for a year. And I don't even use the platform.
What is wrong about the platform?
They haven't thought about it properly. And it's just not good enough. And now there's other platforms that you can pay €50 a month and you get 10 times better results. And
for the platform, you mean to record and transform your recordings into an online virtual reality course?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm working with a very good company at the moment who are also from the Netherlands, and we're working on filming for the next ones. So through this trial and error, I now have the best companies. You know, it was costly, and I felt really silly that I'd believed in their product, but I didn't know enough about it to make a proper decision.
would you be able to identify either a red flag? So what is the one thing that people must take care of or must watch out for in order to choose the right platform?
Yeah, they have to make sure that the amount of content that you're putting in is kept there and not deleted if you go over the certain amount you're paying per month. Yes, it happens.
Deleted. This is so we're not talking about 1,500 euros here. We're talking about costly.
Your content deleted.
Wow.
So you can imagine you've worked for a month creating something.
Yeah.
You've uploaded it and your clients are using it. It's fantastic. But then all of a sudden you've reached your limit of the amount of content. They don't just store it. It's deleted.
Wow.
And you just have to do it again.
Yeah.
So this is one thing I would be very, very careful of. When you're looking at different suppliers, you have to. And also the other thing was, especially if you're going to be working with a startup, and remember most of these companies are startups.
By definition, because it's so
new. So Neil, I'm a startup, so most of the companies are a startup. What happens to your content if they go bust and you've spent 6 months creating something?
Yeah.
You've created it on their platform. What do you then do? And who has the IP and how are you going to keep it? So this is also my very important takeaways.
Wow,
And again, I've been through all of this and I now have my list of things to do and things not to do. And not to do is take it face-to-face. You sign up for something when you really are not sure of what you're signing up to. As in you're not the technical knowledge is so new that the company who's selling it to you don't even know their full technical knowledge, because this is happening as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've had some companies who I've said certain things to. Oh, we never thought of that. We'll have to think about it. Oh yeah, if you want that, it'll cost you an extra 50 a month. And you're like, what? So it's a very questionable area, but now I have the right partners and now we're there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so important to know at least to know what to look out for and the right questions to ask.
Absolutely. And, and as I said, I'm happy to have a chat with anybody,
Wonderful. I put your contacts in the show notes.
Yes. I'm happy to share my failings, but not name them.
Talking about failings, for you, what makes a workshop fail?
Research. So if you haven't researched the people who are attending and they're not the correct people, I have turned things down where I don't believe the people. As I mentioned before, I often have pre-interviews with people before they're coming into a workshop. And if I don't believe that they are going to see the value and take on board what the workshop is all about, I won't have them come into the workshop. So, and I guess this is not an arrogance. This is a fact that the people who I'm usually dealing with, the ones who I'm working with, we're on a very social side. We're talking about social skills. And if I don't believe that I can be on the same level as them, you don't have the time to hit someone's head on the wall.
And I don't think that this has anything to do with arrogance, but more with professionalism. So if you have the impression that with this group, you cannot deliver the value that they need and that is your standard, then you cannot accept it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And that's it. So this is, for me, this is my benchmark.
Research about the participants.
Yeah, about the participants.
Yeah. And the other question I always ask, and I'm curious, is what is your favorite exercise?
Oh, well, my favorite exercise is actually where we work with Connects. I don't know whether you know Connects. Connects is a building toy. And it's long sticks and everything else. And then I throw, maybe, for instance, if we had a group of 30 and you've got 3 tables of 10. So there will be one train, one car, and then the others will just be bricks and stones and long sticks. They have, and then I tell the 3 groups, okay, you have to build something and sell it to me. Something of value. And that's all I say, something of value. And they are allowed to question what the interpretation of value is, but no one ever does. They just go off. And I always say, I'm here. You can ask me questions. You can ask me anything you like. No, they just go off into their 3 little groups. And I walk around and I can hear them saying, how much does it cost, or what is the value? And then, because I've also said you have to then sell me your product and presentation. But for instance, you could have 3 groups. I recently did this, and one group had perceived value as value to the community. And they went the whole way, and they had got wasteland given from the government. And they built a park, and they built tower blocks, and then they built they put trees and everything, all from the Connects, which is the, like the toys that I use. And so they did this, and it was phenomenal. They'd made trees, and then they sold it as a value to community base, which was fantastic. Another group had made, so you've got one group who've made this fantastic, really, really good. And they even put a train track and the train on it. Another group who were given a car, and they built a car park. And so the value is they could rent the car park out to people for money. And then the other group, I can't remember what they did. But, they built a fairground. So they built a fairground in the city. But then when they're doing the presentations, they really have to sell their beliefs. And it's quite amazing how, even though the person with the train, person with the car, and then the person with nothing, no extra big bit, lost the whole concept.
Yeah.
They were just like, well, we've not got a train and we don't have a car, so we don't have anything. Yeah. So they actually then lost everything, so much so that I actually can't remember what they built.
Yeah.
And the other 2 created a story from it. And why I love doing, and I've done this workshop many times with the same instruments, and they've never, ever come up with the same thing. They're all very, very different. And I said to them, like, why do you not ask? Okay, because also at the other side, I had like 10 cars, a plane, lots of, and they could have come and used anything. And then it's all about questioning. Come and ask questions, find out what the purpose of it is. Nobody asked, why are we doing this? Why? So then comes at the end of it all of the questions, and it really motivates people to how their thoughts were different and what they should have questioned and not just gone ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, you're given this, do something with it. Okay, but can we actually use everything else that is there? Can we borrow from other people? Can we do all of these things? This is my favorite one, because I love, and when I said I often send people a box, I'll send them a box of things, a box of these connects, and say, okay, open it up, now we're going to do this. And everybody has to then describe what they have built.
Ooh, that's a different layer then. First of all, I think it's funny because here the hashtag "who doesn't ask doesn't get" comes back.
Yeah.
That's a kind of nice circle. And it also shows that we are much more able to create something of value, however you define value, if we have boundaries. So in order to be creative, in order to do something and to coordinate, to collaborate, we really need very strict rules, boundaries, and a clear purpose, because otherwise the group might discuss until today what they're going to build with the sticks.
Exactly, because the third group, they literally were there with a pen and a paper still talking about what they were going to be building.
Yeah. And I think it really points out the problem of many teams when collaborating is that if they don't know what's expected from them, they will just start talking and find these minute details just to keep themselves busy and to keep the illusion as if they were solving a problem.
That's right. Yeah. And I will actually send you some of the photos later so you can see, because it's when you see the difference, it's like, oh wow, okay. So it's a great, I love that. So that's my favorite activity. And I always use this one for every single first start. So whether I'm starting a training session which might last for 3 months, or it's a day session, it's just either cut short or it can go up to half a day.
But this one, for this exercise, you really need to have the physical tool. No, you can do it in the virtual world?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've done it in the virtual world with paper, pen. They have to have paper, pen, sellotape, and they have to build a bridge across everybody. So everybody has to build a bridge, and that's all I say. You have to build a bridge. And then it's up to them to figure out how they're going to build the bridge. And then everybody will come on the screen, and they have to literally have the bridge going across to show that they have been able to build the bridge. That it's all the same. And this works great when you're actually doing it as a team building exercise in person, because then I blindfold them. Yeah,
fascinating. One thing that just crossed my mind again, and I didn't ask the question before, when you mentioned that usually your workshops go over 8 hours.
Yeah.
What is the sequence then of taking breaks? Because thinking of sitting 8 hours in front of Zoom, I think everyone would literally die.
They would.
So I think as an avatar, it might be easier.
Yeah.
And still, after how much time would you take breaks? And what kind of breaks is it then in order to really recover and to nurture our mind?
It's quite funny you ask that, because people will say, if you're in Zoom or blah, 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 it will take you, you'd be dead by the end of it. Well, actually, when we're doing these sessions as an avatar, there's no fixed break. There's no fixed break. You have to come up with, you're working as a team. It's up to your team to say, okay, we're now going to take a break. And you see the avatar all of a sudden says away. And they've gone for a cup of coffee, but when you actually check, but they've come straight back.
Yeah.
And when you actually check at the end of the day, okay, so how long did you have for your lunch? 15 minutes. People are so excited, and because remember, they're not looking at a screen. They're talking, they're moving.
True. So I think with VR glasses, I totally get it. And now thinking about it, I even understand when they sit in front of their computers because, I mean, gamers, they spend 8, 10, 12 hours in front of their screen playing a video game with an avatar.
Yeah, that's right. And also, you don't have to just be sat down. You can be walking around. You can be talking. Because remember, your avatar, you just sit your avatar down. And then you can be walking around.
Assuming that you have VR glasses.
No, from your computer.
Oh.
So you're in, remember when you came into the office, so as your avatar, we can go into a breakout session. You can sit down. So you click sit down on the chair. And you sit yourself down. And while you're still working with your team, you can be standing up, walking around.
Because I'm not walking out of the screen. Yeah. Nobody cares.
You can, nobody cares because you're not there.
Think about that. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of had the impression that if I'm sitting with my avatar, then I also have to sit in order to be there and to see the other avatars. But actually, no, it doesn't bring value to see the other avatars sitting.
No. So you don't need to. And if you wanted to have a private meeting, you go into another room.
Yeah.
You share your screen and you can both talk to each other through your two screens.
Yeah.
So if you want to collaborate on something, you go into a breakout room, you both share your screen, or 4 of you share your screen in a room with 4 screens. And you can collaborate as an avatar.
Yeah.
So you don't get tired.
Yeah. And it's then also a nice mix between, because an avatar sitting down without getting any visual clues from the other avatars is basically like a phone call.
Yeah.
But since you do have the environment and the variety you can create, it's not as boring because you have more options.
That's right. Yeah. And you often hear people say, should we just go and have a game of football? And they'll go off. They will go to the football field as an avatar, have a game of football, or go and have a little ride on the boat and come back to the session.
Even if it's 1.5 hours late as for the CEO.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wow, you opened an entire new world to me, and I'm sure that many of the listeners will also find inspiration and might contact you to ask more. Because if they don't ask, they don't get, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
We've already spoke for almost an hour. If someone fell asleep after minute 1, just woke up and doesn't have time to listen to the entire show again, what is it that you think would capture the essence of our conversation?
That if you're bored in training, no problem. If you're an avatar, you can just go in a speedboat, have a little drive around the island and come back and be refreshed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your generous sharing, Tracy. It was a feast.
Well, it was lovely to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you for staying tuned and listening to the show. I appreciate your attention as I know how busy you are. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and engage by sharing your comments and thoughts, and visit workshops.work to download the one-page summary. I'm looking forward to seeing you back at the next episode, and I wish you a fruitful day.